Well, it could be huge. However, water resource management is about climate change. I mean, that is the history. It looks at what's happening today. Is it an unusual event? How do we measure that over time? I think what climate change is doing is bringing people's awareness to that. Some say it's completely different than what's happened before, but we don't know what that means because it's 200 years before, 1,000 years, 2,000 years. The most important thing is that people are beginning to understand that the climate is always changing, that nature is always changing, that the human societies are always changing. So these are dynamic processes, and we're trying to see how they interact. But I have to emphasize that that's always been part of what water resource people have done. Now, today's world, if we see dramatic changes in the way rainfall comes or the way storm surges may occur, and we see the way that we have settled today in big cities and vulnerable areas, there could be huge impacts. People need a broad education. They may have a specialty, but they need to be broad. Secondly, they need to have a basic understanding of the economics. They need to have basic understanding of the statistics, meaning how do we look at these probability, where do they come from? And more than anything, and particularly in career, because you have so much of this, history. You have a long history of how the people in water settled and how this changed over many hundreds of years. That history needs to be used so that you can help the rest of the world talk about what this meant. You can see how things have changed over time, dramatically. Warmer, colder, how the people moved around, how the water moved. So there's a very important need for history. And finally, if we're going to discuss this, we need to understand the basic engineering concepts. What are the scientific and engineering? And I would say that the science is obviously important, but what most people aren't discussing is the engineering that relates to this, which is incredibly important. And that doesn't mean just big structures. That means engineering in the general sense, big and small.